Welcome to Lead, Follow, or Get Out of the Way. I'm Shari Strong, and I am the owner and founder of StrongSuccessAcademy.com for leadership and sales. We are so excited to be bringing you this new program to the Middlesboro, Pineville, the Bell County area, because what we're going to be offering you is tips, techniques, and tools that are going to help you become a better you. This show is all about you. And over the course of the coming weeks, the coming months, even the next years, what our hope is that we help elevate you, empower you, and that you're able to go out and do something that you maybe had never thought about before. So after the break, when we come back, join us. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself, about what we're going to do, who we're doing this for, and why we're doing this. Join us after the break. Welcome back to Lead, Follow, or Get Out of the Way. So I'm Shari Strong, and I am here and I live in the local area, and we are so excited about bringing this to you. One of the reasons why is because I'm just very passionate about helping people find their potential. What that is, what does that look like for you? So we figured you should know a little bit more about myself so you know who you're listening to. So I'm going to cover that for a few minutes, and then we'll get into why we're doing this a little bit more, and then what we'll be covering will actually leave you with a few points to think about before the next show. So with that said, Shari Strong, and I was born in the Midwest in the South Dakota, and things were not always great. Now, most recently, I was the director of sales for a large .com company and helped them go from 25 million to 600 million. In less than 8 years, help build successful sales teams there. I believe in helping people do more and help become more. With that, it wasn't like I was born successful. Unfortunately, I did things the hard way, probably like many of you or some of the friends you may know. But I was a high school dropout. I didn't go back and get my diploma until I was in my 20s. Didn't get my degree until I was in my 40s. What was interesting is along that journey, things did not just come to me. I had to go look for them. Even through all the trials and tribulations, I knew there was a bigger purpose for me. I just didn't know what, and I didn't know how to do it. So over the course of all of that experience, going from starting out selling encyclopedias and vacuums, yes, I did that. And I also went to cosmetics and jewelry, did it all. I've sold everything to make a living. Had 3 children by the time I was 21, 2 husbands. So I'm sharing this with you not because I was born into success. It doesn't happen that way, and I believe that. And that's why we're here. But it was the course of the path that I took over the next 20 to 25 years and how I developed and was very intentional about becoming a better me is why I'm here now sharing with you. So I believe in people's potential. We're all born with potential. Here's what I also believe. I believe that nobody is born successful. And on the flip side, nobody is born unsuccessful. You hear about people who are born into successful families, but often, they're the ones with the stories of drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and unfortunately, even suicide. And yet, I can tell you stories of people I have met that have come from Africa, Guatemala. They had nothing. I have a friend he fled from Iran and went through South America, came to the United States, learning to speak English, and now he's a very successful in the insurance agency and does training nationwide. So what separates us? That's what we're going to talk about over the course of today and to set the stage here. And then moving forward, what we're going to talk about for the next episodes. And we encourage you to email us let us know. Ask us questions. What is it that you want to hear more about? What are things that you would like advice on? And I hope to help you with that. So a little bit more about my background. After all of that journey, I was actually in a car accident 14 years ago that left me, I had to relearn to speak. And I controlled the right side of my face after I was told that I would never be able to speak again. And here I am now, speaking a lot. So never let somebody, that's your first lesson, never let somebody tell you you can't do something, because you can. Went and got my degree, let's just say about 10 years ago. And in the course of that time, over the course of the last 13 years, that's when life changed. So what changed, what was different before 13 years ago and since? It was my thinking process. I stopped depending on what other people thought, what other people were going to give me, what other people thought of me, and started believing in the fact that I knew I could do more, be more, and have more, and ultimately help others do the same. So I had to believe when nobody else would believe. Now with that, there's processes. Yes, there's being intentional. That's what this show is going to be all about, is how we do those things. So, I believe that nobody is born successful, nobody's born unsuccessful. So what are the things that separate successful people from unsuccessful people? So let's talk about that. The first thing is, successful people think differently. Their thought process is different. The first thing they do is they think about solutions. They don't think about the problems. The problems help them actually come up with the solutions. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had an idea? Maybe in the past month you've had one. Where you had an idea and you're going, man, that'd be a great idea. We should do that. We could do that here in Middlesboro. Why doesn't somebody do this? You're dreaming about what you want to do. And then you go to share it with your friends and your family. And what happens? You can't do that. That's never been done here. You can't do that in Middlesboro. You don't have a degree. Who are you to think that you could do something like that? See, people who are unsuccessful tend to focus on the problem. And people who are successful, ultimately, it's because they're focusing on the solution. So just to give you an idea, an example of this. I mean, I had many ideas over the course of the years to have an online academy. So many times, you can't do that. You have never done those. You've never done videos. Don't know how to get that out there. You don't have the money. You don't have the background. You don't have the influence. Everything that could not be done, I was told, would happen. I still believed that's what I was supposed to do. So, started working on that. And it's come down to doing steps and taking steps to what I wanted to do and where to go. And it's the same thing with you. If it's something that you desire, if it's an idea that you have, it comes down to being intentional and setting small steps and goals to doing that. So that's the first thing. Successful people think about the solution. Unsuccessful people think about the problem. Now, number two, successful people actually, they take time to reflect. They reflect on their past. And when I say they reflect, they don't reflect to say what went wrong. They reflect on what they did right. And yes, they also will take the time to say, man, what are the top 3 things I could have done better? So I made a lot of financial mistakes. When I look back, when I was 20 and had 2 babies already, 21, had 3 babies already, I did not make the best decisions in the world. Now, it would have been easy for me to blame my environment, blame my mom, blame the family, blame the fact it was the job, blame all my circumstances. But ultimately, And I'm sure I did all of those things. But ultimately, when I look back, I made the decisions that got me where I was or was not. So it's the same thing today. The decisions I make moving forward are what will get me where I want to go. It's not the economy, it's not Obamacare, it's not the, cash for clunkers when I was working in the auto industry. So successful people, when they look back and they reflect, they're not reflecting to beat themselves up or have a pity party. They're looking back and reflecting to learn from their decisions they made so that they can do better in the future. So in the next segment, when we come back after the break, we're going to talk about what I call the Pat Summitt method of how to reflect back and what that looks like so that you can move forward, not making the same mistakes, but hopefully progressing and growing as you go forward. So that brings us to number 3. Number 3, successful people believe they have a purpose. Now, I'm not talking about the foo-foo purpose. If you're hearing this, you might be thinking, oh, great, she's one of those purpose-driven. Absolutely I am. You gotta have a purpose. You gotta know what you want. Now, here's the thing. You may not know exactly what your purpose is, but it's, do you believe that you have one? That's the question. You have to believe you have a purpose. And if you don't know what that is, again, that's what this show is going to help you with over the coming weeks and months. Is maybe finding that purpose. Now, the purpose might only be to be the best mom in the world. Your purpose might be to lead your coal mine the best, better than anybody else ever has. Your purpose might be to mentor children that don't have big brothers or sisters or families. Your purpose might be to be the best janitor that your company has ever seen. So you have to believe in the purpose, and with purpose, there is no big or small. The idea of big or small is nil or void because it's for you, therefore it is big. So I want to invite you to come back, join us in the next segment. We're going to get into and actually dig into few steps and the techniques that you can use moving forward. And that's what Lead, Follow, Get Out of the Way is all about. So I'm so excited you're with us. We hope you join us when we get back. Shari Strong, we'll see you after the break. Welcome back to Lead, Follow, Get Out of the Way. I'm Shari Strong. So we had talked about the who I am, why we're doing this, and a little bit about the what and my passion behind doing this and helping you reach your potential. So let's go ahead and dig into a couple of the techniques. So one of the first things that I learned, so I am also on John Maxwell's team, if you know who he is. He's written 74 books on leadership. He was just ranked the #1 leadership guru in the world by Success Magazine. I was fortunate enough to join his team about 4 years ago, and I've been to Guatemala with John. I've shared the stage with John, speaking about potential and my story and sharing it with people. He always says that the first person you have to learn to lead is yourself. See, so leaders, and when you're thinking about the term leadership, I got a little nervous, I'll tell you, when we were thinking about this, because whenever I bring up the term leadership, people think, I'm not a leader. I don't lead anybody. I don't want to be a leader. They even shy away from it. Well, my first goal here in this segment is to help give you a little bit perception on that term leadership. See, leadership, we were born leaders, all of us. Period. You were born to lead yourself first. Now, you may have children. You may have a title. You might be a manager, but that does not make you a leader. You were born a leader, but to keep that, you have to be intentional about growing yourself first. So leadership is ultimately about growing yourself, being intentional about you learning, raising your awareness of who you are. So I like to say, once you are aware of something, you can't under-aware it. That's my joke for the day. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and dig in a little bit. If you're going to lead yourself, it starts with intentionality. And there's all kinds of things you can do. Read books. Book studies, go to groups. There's lots of small groups that meet together at churches, organizations, Toastmasters for speaking, all types of things that you can do to better yourself. So as you start to define and think about what your purpose is, or if you already know what your purpose is, I know there's people that are watching right now that you are very clear about your purpose and what that is and where you're going. Then the next step is how. What are the tools that you need so you can move forward to the next step? Well, let's start there. One of the methods that I learned, and actually learned this from John. John used to actually go to Pat Summitt's basketball games when he was in town, and she would invite him to come into the locker room with the girls at halftime to listen so that he can learn from them about leadership styles. And I've got goosebumps right now because when I think about the fact that John C. Maxwell and Pat Summitt were talking about leadership, and that the reason why she was so successful is she was able to develop her players to all be leaders. Now, did that mean they all played point guard? No. They all did their position, they all held their position, and they all did their thing at the best of their ability. So they had to lead themselves first before they can even imagine being successful on a team. And it's the same thing in your family, with your children. It's the same thing in your church or people that you're going out to interview with. If you want to be successful with other people, you've got to be confident and successful with yourself first. So what he did is he went into the locker room and he would watch this evolve. And what they would do, the captain of the team, she would sit all the rest of the team down and they would write on a board, or they would write on the board, the top 3 things they did well the first half. So what were the top 3 things they did well that first half? Was it might have been as simple as dribbling. We did really well dribbling the ball. See, the point here is it doesn't matter the detail of what it is. What it does matter is that you're reflecting on what you do well. When is the last time that you sat down and reflected on something that you did well? See, most people tend to focus on what they don't do well. They focus on what they did wrong. Well, I did that wrong. I shouldn't have done that. And I made the mistake in my checkbook. They're focusing on, I could have done better here, and oh my gosh. But they don't take the time to reflect on what they do well. If you want to get better in something in a certain area, you have to recognize what you already do well. Now, this isn't coming from a point of arrogance. This is just coming from a point of an intentionality to grow and be better. If you don't measure where you're at, you don't have a marker to where you want to go. So, reflect. I'm going to invite you to do that. Think about it right now. What's the top 3 things you've done well in the past month? Now, you might be sitting there thinking, with what? Like with being a mom? Yeah. What are top 3 things you've done well as far as being a mom this last month? What are the top 3 things you've done well in the community? If you're a community leader here in Middlesboro, Pineville, Bell County area, what's the top 3 things you've done well with connecting with community? If you're a community leader, I would think you would need to connect with them. Write those down. Now, the second part of this is, what are the top 3 things, not that you did wrong, but that you could do better? So you know what you just did well, what you've done well. What are the top 3 things you could do better at to achieve the goal that you want in the next month? So, for instance, I'll look at this first video, this first TV show, and I will practice what I preach. What are the top 3 things I did well? I prepared well. Let's think about that. Hopefully I have some good content for you. Right? What are the top 3 things I did well? I will also say, here's the top 3 things that I need to focus on so that I could do better. It's not that I did them wrong, it's just it could have been a little bit better. So when you take time to reflect and do that, and if you remember in the last segment, that was number 3. Successful people take time to reflect and they own the decisions they made. And that could have led you to more success, or it could have led you to something that wasn't so successful. I'll tell you, a few years ago when I was launching my business and I left that big job, the dream job, I made a lot of financial decisions that were not good. Now, I was getting advice from people and I was all excited and I bought everything. But I will tell you, in the end, I could blame some of those people. But I made the decision to do that. So now when I look back, what are the top 3 things that I need to do better? Well, I need to research a little bit better when somebody gives me advice. I need to take my time and understand that success doesn't happen overnight. That I need to do one thing, do it well, and then add to it. So Hershey's came out with Hershey's chocolate candy bars was their first thing. They didn't start adding candy kisses right away. They waited. So for me in the business, that's one of the things I learned. So that's what I'm going to ask you is, what are the top 3 things you could do better in the next month or in the next week till I see you again? So the Pat Summit method. Top 3 things you did well, top 3 things you could do better, and then here's how you end it. What are one thing you could do in each of those top 3 things this next week to move you forward? So if mine is one of them is, the top 3 things I need to do better is to make sure that I have the content really down. I have it down. I have it to the best of my ability. So one thing I can do is every day read something about something I want to share with you, content that I want to bring to you. Take 5 minutes every day. So that's one thing I can do this next week. So for you, what are the one thing in each of those 3 areas that you could do better that you can actually do this next week? Maybe it's start reading a book. Maybe it's reaching out to a mentor. Maybe it's reaching out to your boss that you haven't sat down and spoke with and you're wondering if you're doing a good job. My goal and my advice here for you is be very specific about what it is that you want to do. The more specific you are, we tend to talk in generals. Well, people like to do this, then they do this. No, I want you to be very specific about one thing you can do. And then hold yourself accountable. Now this brings us back to the beginning of the show when I said, do you know people who are always raining on your parade? When you have that idea and they're like, you can't do that, do not take these things to those people. Take these one things to that person that believes in you, to that person that you can trust, and just say, hey, I need you to hold me accountable this next week because I'm trying to do better. I want to do more. I believe in my dream. Will you help me do that? When you do those things and you actually ask for an accountability partner, somebody who believes in you, it's going to be your first step. So that's it, the Pat Summit method. Lead, follow, get out of the way. Reflect on the past 3 things that you've done well, the top 3 things you've done well, the 3 things that you need to do better, and one specific action that you can take in those 3 areas over the course of the next week. Give yourself a deadline. So when we return after the break, I'm so glad that you joined us this week. We'll wrap this up. We'll set it up for this next week. And I am so excited to be a part of this. Again, we're here to help you become a better you all the time. So come back and join us after the break. And I'm so excited that you're here, and we look forward to many more shows with you. Lead, follow, get out of the way. Shari Strong, we hope you enjoyed this first episode. And we encourage you to email us. Let us know your thoughts. What's something you want to learn about? So in the coming weeks, we'll be talking about decision making, goal setting, leadership principles, just the thought processes, and how to take what you want to do and find that purpose for you. I am so excited. I can't wait to hear the stories of you. Remember, we're in Middlesboro, Pineville, the Bell County area in Kentucky, and you can go out and do whatever it is that you want to do and become who you want to become. I believe in that. So thank you for joining us. Lead, follow, get out of the way. We'll see you next week.